In public buildings and in private homes of the Romans and Greeks, archaeologists have been uncovering the artwork of images of all kinds of animals and beasts. Some of them were used to symbolize power, and others were meant to tell stories of conflict and courage. Art has always been an important part of culture, and it was sometimes used as propaganda, but also to convey important messages. It shouldn't surprise us then that those who wrote the Bible also used art containing animals. But their images weren't drawn with paint or stone, but with descriptive words and figurative language. One of those images was used in the Apostle Paul's letter to the Corinthians when he made reference to his fighting with the wild beast at Ephesus. Did Paul really fight with animals? Join with us on this edition of Connections as we investigate the ancient city of Ephesus to discover truths about the life and culture of its citizens, discoveries that make an important connection between faith and fact. While fighting wild beasts was certainly not uncommon in the Roman world, it seems unlikely that Paul was persecuted by having to defend himself in a gladiatorial fight against animals. Instead, Paul's declaration that he had fought the beast of Ephesus is likely a metaphor used to describe human behavior. This type of figurative language is found both in the Bible and in the secular literature of the age. Its use in 1 Corinthians is undoubtedly then a reference to the clash and the struggle occurring in the marketplace, where citizens of Ephesus often engage in vigorous debate about philosophy, religion, and politics.
So, what is an agora?
Well, here at the agora is a marketplace. It's actually kind of the Greek terminology in reference to things that were sold, shops, all of that. Sometimes there were some unofficial kinds of meetings that took place. The Romans would call it the forum, but the Greeks call it the agora.
Paul also spoke about his fight in other places in the Bible as being a war of arguments against the rulers of darkness. He said, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in high places." A Christian walking down the streets of ancient Ephesus would undoubtedly have made the connection between wrestling with the rulers of darkness and the Greco-Roman way of life. Greco-Roman philosophy, idolatry, and emperor worship were pervasive at Ephesus, and the rulers of darkness in high places were an affront to those who believed in Jesus as King and God. Evidence of what Christians encountered can still be seen among the ruins at Ephesus, in places like the Temple of Isis and in the sanctuary of Cybele. It can also be observed on reliefs honoring Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. As you continue through the ruins of Ephesus, you will also see a depiction of Hermes, the messenger god, and also an important gateway whose columns are adorned with reliefs of the mythological Hercules, the greatest of Greek heroes who was charged with defeating a beastly lion. Indeed, many pagan deities were honored and worshipped in Ephesus, but none more important than Artemis.
That was the main deity that's worshipped here at Ephesus. And she wasn't just worshipped here at Ephesus. As we've seen on some of our journeys here, her temple was found in a lot of places, but she is the patron deity of this place, a god that really represented a lot of different aspects of life, but man, she had a prominent place here with a huge temple just outside of the city right here.
Known by the Romans as Diana, her temple at Ephesus was considered by ancient sources to be one of the great wonders of the world. The expense and effort it took to build such an enormous and elaborate structure indicated their desire to be blessed and protected by this alleged goddess of the hunt. She was thought to exercise control over all wild animals on the land, the air, and in the sea. In his epic poem, the Iliad, Homer calls Artemis the mistress of the beast, lady of the wilds, and mistress of the bow. Artemis had a well-known reputation for fierceness and aggressiveness, the characteristics of many wild creatures, which was reflected in literature, art, and the popular imagination. This then would explain why Paul spoke of his spiritual confrontation, specifically with the cult of Artemis, as a fight with animals. But fighting against the traditional Greek and Roman pantheon wasn't the only beast that Paul would have faced in Ephesus. Evidence of emperor worship also abounded in the city and can still be seen among the ruins of the temple dedicated to Domitian and Hadrian. But one of the more obvious struggles facing Paul would have also included his encounters with the religious messaging and political propaganda found at the entrance of the Agora, a place where he and Aquila and Priscilla undoubtedly often conducted their business of tent making. Situated at the southeast entrance of the main Agora, this magnificently designed three-arch gateway was built by two former slaves in honor of and in praise of Emperor Octavian, the son of Julius Caesar, for granting them their freedom. Known as the Gate of Mazaeus and Mithridates, the entablature reads as follows: For Emperor Caesar Augustus, the son of the god, Pontiff Maximus. It declares Augustus to be the Pontiff Maximus, or chief high priest, that was responsible for overseeing state religious rituals and managing sacred law. He was also responsible for garnering peace with the gods and to administer sacrifices designed to obtain prosperity and stability for Rome. However, the part of the gateway inscription which declared Octavian as being the son of the god was the most problematic of all. His claim would have stood in sharp contrast to proclamations being made about Jesus by Christians like Paul, Aquila, and Priscilla. These great people of faith were claiming that Jesus of Nazareth, descended from David, was declared to be the Son of God with power by his resurrection from the dead, and not the emperor. As Paul walked through this gate on his way to the marketplace, it must have been a stark reminder of the confrontations that he was sure to face on his way to tell others about Jesus. The belief that Caesar was divine was just one more battle having to be fought among the beasts at Ephesus. Declaring that Jesus was the divine Son of God would for certain result in Paul being persecuted. And yet he continued to share with others the message of hope and love found in the proclamation of the gospel, despite having to struggle with the beast of Ephesus, as he encountered secular philosophy, Greek mythology, the worship of Artemis, and the veneration of Roman emperors. Paul's loyalty to Christ and proven sincerity seen in his fight against evil serve to encourage us today. What we read about his life and what we learn from history is just another example of the powerful connection between faith and fact in the land of the Bible.